Default permissions are like first you have to divide them in a set of three permissions like read, write, execute, read, write, execute, read, write, execute. They will not visually separated. When you check in the machine, when you give a ll command or ls-l command, you will see the permissions, but they are not separated. So you have to separate them in your mind, a set of three permissions. Now the first part, first option, first thing is what? A type of a directory, type of a file, like D for directory, and this dash means what? It is a normal file. So normal file shows like dashes and directory shows D. Then why we divide them in three set of permissions? Because the first set of permission is for owner user. This is owner user's permission. First thing is type of file, this one, whether it is ifn or D or L. And then the first set of permission is for the owner user who created the file. Then second set of permission is for the owner group. And owner group, mostly by default, it is the primary group of the user who creates the file. But by default, we can change it. Then the third permission, set of permission, is for other users. That means owner get this one and group owner get this one. Group owner means all the member of that group will get this one. Now all the remaining users will get this third set of permission. Then you have this dot. It is actually indicating or indication of the advanced permission. And then you will see the owner username and owner group name. That means whatever name you see here, the permission for the owner will be given to that user. Basically it's a owner. And whatever group name you will see here, you will get the permission. This owner group permission will be given to this group. And this is what? Owner group. And then you will see file name or directory name. Then yesterday we have seen last time also that where these basic permissions are coming. Now because in a basic Linux kernel from the Unix, it was giving 666 to files and 777 to directories. 666 means a combination of 2 and 4, that is read write, no execute, read write, read write. Now why I'm writing 3? Because first one is for owner, then owner group, and then others. And this 7 means combination of 1, 2 and 4, that is 7. And 1, 2 or 4, 7 means read write execute all. And what that means, owner will get read write execute, group owner will get read write execute, and others also get read write execute. The problem is here, the problem here is that you create file, you are the owner, you create directory, you are the owner, but others are also getting write permission. That means everyone is getting write permission. That is not good idea. So in Linux, what we have, they have added this umask. And the umask is 022 for root users and 002 is for normal users. And you can check that by giving command umask. So if you want to see that, then you can give umask command to check it. I'm logged in as a root user, and if I want to check the umask, I will check it for root user. So I can check with umask command, and it is showing what? 022. If I logged in as a normal user and when I run umask command, it is showing what? 022, 002. Now what that means, this umask will be deducted from the default permission which is coming from the basic Linux Unix kernel. And that what happened when we deduct that umask. So by default you are getting 666, that is read write, read write, read write. And when you deduct this 022 for root user. So the file permission 6, file permission becomes 644. Now 644 means read write, read and read. That means read for other users and read for group owner also. Now here when you create files, you will get the write permission and nobody else will get write permission. By default they can get only read permission. This is for root users file, and if you root user creates the directory, then the permissions will be default 777, and when you reduce the subnet umask, then you will get 755. Now 755 means 7 means all, read write execute, so owner will get everything, but others and group owner will get what? Read and execute. Read and execute means read is 4 and execute is 1, together it is 5. So what you get? 5 5 5. And if normal user creates files, then these normal users umask will be removed from the default permissions and they will get this permission. Only this different is user owner will also get what? Read write, but others will still get read permission. So this is the default structure of the permissions. Now, how we configure the permissions? These are the default permissions, and if we see the file, if we see the Linux, then we can see the default permissions here. If you logged in as a root and when you check it, then you can see every file which root user creates, they have this permission. That is what? 644 after reducing the umask. And if the root user create any directory, then it will get this 755 after reducing the umask. And if normal user creates any file or directory, now I logged in as a normal user, and when I check, so it creates any directory, then the permission will be 775, and if it create any file, so 664, and this is the default permissions we are getting. Now to change the default permissions or change the any permission of file or directory. File or directory, remember, either you can change it for file or directory, both, but the commands are same. So if you want to change or assign a permission to any file or directory, so now today we will see this assigning permissions or modifying permissions. So we can say assigning or modify modifying the permissions. Okay, now whenever we create any file or directory, it will get the default permission. Default permission will be always there. That means, okay, it is very small. Let me increase. So whenever we create any files or directories, it will get the default permissions. Now it will get the default permissions according to the users. That means according to the users umask. So according to the users umask, it will get the permission, default permission always. So whenever we create, it will get the permission according to the users umask. Now what we can do, we can do modify default permission, or we can do assign permission to multiple different users. So first what we can do, modify the default permissions. So we can do modify the default permissions. Now for modifying the default permissions, we have a command, or assigning the permission, we have a command. So what we can do, modify default permissions or assign new permissions. So we can do modify the default permissions, and also we can assign new permissions. And the command for that is chmod. So we say to modify the default permissions. So the command for the modifying default permissions is chmod. Now before modifying the default permissions, we have two ways actually. We have two options for doing this. To modify the default permissions, we have two ways. First, we can use numeric numeric permissions, or we can use symbolic. Or we can use symbolic permissions of symbolic way of assigning the permission. So we have a numerical way or symbolic way. Now numerical way means what? We know that the permissions are in bits, and bits represents in decimal. In decimal we have numbers 1, 2 and 4. So if we can do, so we can use this, like for read is equal to what? 4, and write is equal to 2 and execute is equal to 1. So we can use it like this. We can say read, which is we can use 4. For write we can use 2. For execute we can use 1. This is the way we can use, which is very easy way. This is very easy way to use to assign the permission or modify the permission by using the numerical combination. Now numerical combination, that means you can use combinations of 1, 2 and 4. Like if you want to give read write, then you will use 4 and 2 combine 6. If you want to give only read and execute, then you will combine 4 plus 1. 4 plus 1 will be 5. So 5 means read execute. If you want write execute, then you will give a write plus for 2 plus 1, and you will be giving 3. 3 means write and execute. And if you want to give all the permission, then you can combine all the numbers like 4, 2 and 1, and you will give 7 permission. So you can use single like 1, 2 or 4, or you can use combinations of 1, 2 and 4, which is we can do 1 plus 2, 3, 2 plus 4, 6, 4 plus 1, 5, or all together we can say 7. The other way is a symbolic way, where for read we can use R, for write we can use W, and for execute we will use X. This is what symbolic way. Now when you use symbolic way of permission, when you use a symbolic way to give a permission, then you can use one more thing. We can use plus symbol, uh, plus symbol. Oh, what I will use here, plus symbol for adding the permission. That means if you want to add new permission, like already we are having one permission, like read, and I want to add execute, then I will use add. I will use plus symbol, plus X. That means I am adding execute. And I can use minus. Now minus means what? Removing. Now removing means what? Minus means removing. That means suppose we are already having read write permission to file. So what I want to remove the write permission. So what I can do? I can use minus symbol. I can use this operator. I can write minus W. That means I want to remove the write permission. Then also you can use equal symbol. Now equal symbol means directly assigning, and assigning means what? No matter what was the permission previously, I just want to assign this. That means don't want to check the previous permission. So when we use this assign permission, that means we are saying this permission is going to be applied, whether it is whatever the permission, I don't care. Previously whatever the permissions, I don't care. Whatever the permission right now I am giving, that will be taken as a permission. Oh, I think I should use another symbol here. uh, Let me find out the symbol. these are operators, so we can use operators also. Now it is okay. Now first we will see the first method of using permission, and that is what? That is numerical way. Now for this the command is what? Command is chmod. Chmod is the command whether you are using numerical way or symbolic way. This is the command to modify or assign the permission. And first, whether you are assigning or changing, modifying permission for file or directory, this is the same command. So the command syntax is very simple. When first you will mention the command chmod, then you will mention the permissions which you want to assign, and then you will mention the name of the file or directory. Is it if it is in a local directory where you are right now working on it, like your working directory, then you can give directly the local path, that is you can give directly names of the file or directory. And if the file and directory is in some other path, then you have to use the absolute path. Remember, make sure you use the proper path for the file, and you have to make sure that where the file is. So here you will give the permission, you will use the command chmod, then you will mention the permission, whatever permission you want to assign or change, and then you will mention file or directory name. This is the syntax of changing permission of any file or directory. Now we are using what? Numerical way. So first, for testing, what I am going to do, I will create one directory, and in that directory now I want to modify the permission, and I want to give a permission to different users. First, we have a users here in this system. I created 4 users. If you can see here, we have user 1, 2, 3, 4, and also we are having user 5. Okay. Now I'm logged in as a root user. Now remember, if root user creates any file, all the other users will get only read permission. They will not get write permission. By default, all the users will get read permission. Now, right now I'm in root users home directory. Now remember, if I create any file here in this directory, and if I give user a permission on this directory in the file, then user will not able to use it, because no user can come to this root directory. No user can come to this root directory, because this is root directory. This is home directory for root user. So no normal user can go to this directory. You can check. I will log in here with user 1, and if I try to go to root users home directory, what it is saying? Permission denied. So if I create any file there, and if I give any permission to any user, they cannot use it, because they can't go to this directory. It is not possible for normal user to go to this directory. And we don't use, we will not give permission on the root user's home directory to any normal user. It is not secure. So what I'm going to do here, for testing purpose, I'm going to create one directory. Now I'm creating one directory under slash, so that everyone can go to this directory. Now all the users can go to this directory. This is I'm just right now creating, and because I'm right now creating the directory, if you can check the permission of this directory, this directory is created by root, so it is getting the default permissions of root, that is read write execute for the root user, owner user, read execute for normal user, a owner group, and all the other users will get read execute. That means user 1 2 3 4, everyone can go and read the directory. That read the directory means they can list the directory content, and execute means they can go inside the directory. So by default they are getting what everyone is getting, read execute, so they can list the directory and they can go to the directory. So if I check the user 1 here, it is logged in, it can the test directory, yes, and it can go inside the test directory, yes, it can go to that directory. Right now there is no file there, but it can go to that directory and it can read the content of the directory. That is what the default permission with the directory. Now other user can only read and execute, that means they can list and they can go inside the directory, but they cannot create any file inside.
Excuse me, sir. I need to understand something here.
Yes.
Yeah, before you said these users.
Now they are having, the other users are having only read permission. That means they can see what is inside the directory, but they cannot create anything. So if this user 1 tries to create anything in this directory, test directory, suppose it says cat command and uses the redirection symbol to create any file. It says I want to create my file with my name u1. What it get? Permission denied. So it cannot do that because it is having only read permission. This is what default permission for the directory. Now I will create a file inside this directory, test directory. So I go to the test directory. I am login as a root, so no file is there. So I will create one file, and because I am creating, I am root, so I will give the file name as admin file and enter, and I will write in this that this file is created by root user and save. So I created one file here in the test directory. Now because I created and I am the root, and because my umask is 022, so the file gets the default permission of read write and read read. Now read write is for owner user, and that owner user is root, and all the other users, whether they are in the group or not, but all the other users are getting read permissions. That means users can see the content of the file, but they cannot edit the content of the file. So user 1 is logged in here. Now user can see the content of the directory, and there is one file now. Now it is try to check the file content by using cat command. It can see the content, but if it tries to edit the content, remember I am using two symbols and I try to edit the content, it says permission denied. You cannot do that. So by default all the other users are having read permission, and all the on the directory and on the file created by root. They are only getting read permissions. Now I want to modify this and I want to change the permissions. So for that, suppose I will change the permission for the directory first. So we have a command chmod. Check the default one first. Let's get default permission for the directory. ls-l will show the permissions attributes and D for directory. So I'm checking the test directory. So what the permissions are, default permissions are read, write, execute, read, execute and read, execute. That means remember 7, 5, 5. Now I want to give permission to other users to write the directory. So chmod is the command. Now remember we are using numerical way. Numerical way is very easy. So by default it is having 7, 5, 5 permission on this directory. This is the default one it is already having. Now I want to give other user write permission. So write permission and other user is this. So I remove the default 5 and already it is having 5 and now I want to add the write permission also. So it will become 7. So by default it is 755. Now I'm changing it to 757 and 757 means I'm giving read, write, execute for owner user, read, execute for the group, and for other users I'm also giving read, write, execute, and done. And now when you check this, now what you see here, read, write, execute, read, execute and read, write, execute. That means read, execute, read, write, execute 7, 5, 7. Now read, write, execute, all the permissions are for other users also. And one more thing, when you give like this, when you give other users, when you give other users all the permissions like read, write, execute on any directory, then the color will also change. You can see the color is also changed and it indicates that this directory contained write permission for other users. Remember, other users. So I gave now write permission to other user. Now what I will do here, instead of going to this command line terminal, because it is very dark and small, I will open one more terminal here. Why I'm using this terminal? Because I can enlarge the text. And on this terminal I will switch to user 1. So now you can see we are logged in as a user 1. Now I will go to that directory. Remember, we can list the directory because we have a list read permission. We can see what is inside the directory. We can go inside the directory by using cd command because we have execute command, and inside that we can check what is the file. Now I gave write permission also to other users. Other users, that means user 1, 2, 3 all. Now they can do what? They can create the file here also in that directory, because we previously it was not able to create, but now it can create the files inside that directory. So now I will use cat command as a root as a user 1 and try to create a file for user 1, and then you can see it is creating the file. Why? Because it is now having a permission to write the directory, and it can say that this file is created by user 1. and it can create the file because I gave a permission to the directory that user can create, that user can edit the directory. And as you see here, this other users are having what? All the permissions, 7. Now remember, I told you that it is not inheritance. That means permissions in Linux is not inherited. That means if you assign permission to any directory or file, this is an example. This is an example. Means 757 means read, write, execute for owner, read, execute for group owner, and read, write, execute for others. So this is an example for the permissions and how we can do this permission. We can just use the any combination of number like 757, 744, 7645, whatever combination you want, you can use according to the permission you want. Now, I said previously also that when you assign permission on a directory, so that does not mean that the permission will also assign, the same permission will inherit on all the files inside the directory. The inheritance are not there in Linux. By default, it will not inherit the permission in directories to inside the directory and file. In Windows, what happened when we give any permission to a directory? So all the files and directories inside that directory will get the same permission. It is inheritance, but here is no inheritance. Okay, I'm going to explain that also. Okay, so here there is no inheritance. Now what happened? I assigned the right permission. Remember, I gave right permission to other users on the directory, but there is one file inside the directory which is created by root, and in that file you can see still other users are having only read permission. Instead, I gave write permission to group to the directory, but still the file does not have write permission. It is only have read permission, and that means it can only read by users. Now, okay, I logged in as a user here, so it can see the file. Is still it can see the file. It can read the content of the file, but if it tries to edit the file again, it will not, because it is not having a permission. It is only having a read permission. So for example, I want to give a permission on this file also, so I can use a numerical way. That is also simple way. So I'm logged in as a root here. So what I will do here, I will use chmod command, and what is the default permission for the file is here 644, and this is what the default permission 644. Now I want to give other user also write permission, so I will add 2 also in the 4. So I will say 6442 is equal to 6, and then I will mention the file name. Remember, I'm mentioning the file name directly because I'm already inside the directory, so I'm using the local path. If you are not in that directory, then you will mention it as a absolute path like /test, and this is the directory. Under the directory, this is the file. because I am directly in the file, in the directory, I can use local path. I can directly type the name. Now I gave what? Write permission. I added the write permission in this file and added the write permission for the other users. Now remember, other users means all the other users except the owner and group owner members. And those are what? Every user, right now it is user 1, 2, 3, 4, everyone. So now user 1 is also having write permission on that file. So when you check, previously it was not giving me permission to edit, it is saying permission denied. Now when I try to edit, I can edit. I can say now I can edit. And now I can edit it. So because why? Because I gave a permission to the user, other users, about write permission. And how I gave it? I used the numerical way and a combination of that numbers 6, 4, 4. So 6 means 4 plus 2, it is read write, and 4 means only read, and again 6 means 4 plus 2, that is read write again. So we can use any combination and we can use it for any file or directory. Now file, whether it is file or directory does not matter, it will use it. So again, one more example, chmod 646, it is for the directory, it is for the file. And what this means, 646 means we have already seen read write for owner and read only for group owner, then again read write for others. That is the example. Now this is what a numerical way, it is very easy to assign, easy to configure, just you can use any combination of numbers. Now if you want to use the second way of assigning permission, and that is what? Symbolic way. Now in a symbolic way you can also use what? You can also use these operators like adding, removing, or assigning the permission. Adding means you can add more permission, like you can add one permission. If there already there one permission, you can add one more. Remove permission, you can remove from the existing permission. And assigning means just assign. Though you software students knows this, assigning these operator means what? Assigning means just assign, don't care about the previous permission. It will use the current permission, whatever it is. And the command is same. The syntax is the same one, and the example of this is also same. Now here the command is same, only the way of assigning permission is different. Like for example here, for example this file, admin file, owner user is having only read write permission. Now I want to add one more permission into that. That is what I want to add, execute into that. So I can do it by using the same chmod command. Now remember, I want to add a permission, so I will say and also I want to add the permission to user owner. And one more thing I will add here, when you use the permission, symbolic permission, then also you means user owner. Then when we use U, that means we are using for user owner and not capital U, small u. And when we use G, that means we are talking about group owner. And when we are giving O, that means we are talking about others. So when you try to assign the permission with symbolic way, then you also have to know that U for user, G for group, and O for others. So like I want to assign permission to user owner. This user owner is already having read write and I want to give execute permission to that. So I will say U plus, that means I'm adding the permission to user owner. And what permission I want to add? So execute and then file or directory name. Remember, whether it is file or directory does not matter. You have to mention the file name or directory name. And if it is in the local directory, then you will mention the local path, or otherwise you have to mention the absolute path. Now what I did, I added one more permission. Already it has two permissions. I added one more permission, that is execute permission. Now when you check, you can see now it is added what? Execute into it. And whenever you add any execute permission to any user, if you give any file execute permission, like any user you give execute permission, the file color will change it to green, and it indicates that this file is executable file. Whether it is not executable, it is not a script, it is maybe it is not a binary file, but still it will show it in green because the user has this X permission, execute permission. So because the user is having an execute permission, the file changes the color into green, indicating that this file is now executable. Because scripts are like normal files. They contain only a text. So when you want to execute those scripts, then you have to give them an execute permission. And you can see root itself this file is created by root, but itself it does not have a execute permission by default. That is also a security. You can see in Windows what happens. Root user has execute permission on all the files which it creates. Like when virus comes into the into the Linux, into Windows, it runs by the administrator permission because it has a permission to execute. But here if the virus comes into the Linux system, they remain as a file until administrator runs it, until root user assign the execute permission and runs it by itself. And no administrator will do this unless it is fooled by someone. And that is also the reason this Linux is secure. So if you want to execute any file, then you will assign the execute permission to it and then you can execute it. So what we did here, we use this symbolic way of assigning the permission. How? So the syntax is very simple, like U plus X, and then you can mention file name or directory name, or I will mention file here, but it can be file or directory. And means that, and this means owner user will get execute permission, because we added X to user owner. Now you can use any combination to do that. Now for example, uh, this group owner of this file is having write permission, read write. So I want to remove write permission from it. So it is already having two permissions. I want to remove one from that. So what I will use the command chmod. Now this time I'm talking about owner group. So I will mention g minus write from the file or directory name. And that means you can see now it is removed write permission from there. Or you can assign a permission, like you don't care what permissions were there, what was there, you just want to make sure that new permission will apply. Like for example, in this file other users are having read write, but I just don't want to give any permission to other user. So I can do what? I can use equal symbol to assign. I don't care about the previous permission. So I will use chmod. For others I will use O. For assigning the permission I will use equal, and for giving no permission I will say just minus. That means just minus. That means I'm removing everything. I'm not giving any permissions, and I'm using assign symbol. So previous permissions will be removed and this permission will be applied. Adding means adding extra, removing means removing one from the existing one, and this means assign. Remove previous, assign new on the file. Now when you check, you can see other users are not having any permissions. And it is not like that you will give permission separately for a user group and others. You can do it all together, like in one command you can do change all the permissions. Chmod, like I want to give user owner, I want to assign read write, then comma, I want to assign group owner read, then comma, and I want to assign other user also read. So I'm giving all the three permissions together on the file, and then you can see read write, read read. This is what you can do all together. And this means what? This means you can assign user group and others permissions at one command. So you can do it by using the one command also. And because I'm using equal sign, so it will remove the previous permission and assign the current permission. Now this is the way we modify the permission or assign the permission to any user or even a owner group.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes. Now some important notes. Okay, let's go to the next page. First, first, root user can change any file or directories permissions. That means it can change any file or directories permission whether it is created by any user. Just right now you saw I changed the permission for other users file, like user one's file. That file was created by user one, but still root user can do the changes. Unless it is not an owner, it is not an administrator, it is not having any permission. If you see there, this file is not belong to root user, it is owned by user one and owner group of the user one, and other users are not having any permission, they are having only read permission, but still administrator can change the permission for that file, and it has done it here. Where? Here. That means root can change any user's file or directory, anybody's, any file. And also normal users can change the permissions. Normal users can change permissions only on their own file. That means the files which they own. Files and directories. So the files and directory which is owned by that users, only they can change the permissions of those files and directories. Now another important thing, and I want to ask you that important thing, a question. So execute and write both will not work without read permission. Now write permission will not work because if you can't open the file, if you can't read the file, you cannot edit the file. So only write will not work. Then only execute will also not work because it will work with only read. That means read and execute. Only execute will not work. Why it will not work? Because execute means what? Executing the file. And executing the file, that means whether it is a binary or a script file, in that file you are having some commands, some scripts, some option loops, something there in that file, which is machine has to read first, that what is written inside the file and what is have to do with that inside the file, what is there, and that it has to run those content of the file, and for that it has to read the file first, then it can execute the content, execute the command. And if it is not having a read permission, then your user cannot see what is inside the file, and when it is not able to see anything, then it is not able to run anything, not able to execute anything. So without read, write will also not work and execute will also not work. So always read and write will write and execute will comes with read permission. So if we can say here only read permission will work, but only write or execute permissions will not work. So if you give only read, it is okay, users can read the file, but if you give only write, it will not work. If you give only execute, it will not work, because for writing a file, you have to open the file first. And for executing the file, you have to read the content of the file. Read the content of the file to execute. To execute it. So this is important because when you give this kind of permission, Linux will not say that it is not right permission. It will take it without any error, but when you try it, it will not work. So this is important notes for the permissions, default ones. Okay. Now next thing is ownership. So ownership means what? The person who creates the file, that person is the owner of the file or directory. An owner can do their own changes. They can change the permission on their file. That means if the user 1 is owner of the file, then it can change the change the permission of the file, and it can assign any permission on that file or directory. So owners can change anything, but root user can do anything, and it can change any permission of any file or directory. Now root can also do one more thing. It can change the ownership. That means it can change the ownership of the file set directory. So next thing is this in permission is what? Managing ownerships. So managing ownership, and we can manage the ownerships also. So root can do what? Root can change ownership of any file or directories. So any file or directories, that means whether it is belong to any user, it can change the ownership to any other users. Now for doing that, it will use the command chown. Chown, then username, and then file or directory name. So whether it is file or directory, you can change anything. File or directory. And this is to what? To change user ownership. This command is to change the user ownership, and who is doing this? Root. Remember, it is root. So if you want to do that, now let's see, we are having a file here, admin file, and I want to change the ownership. So I want to change the ownership to other user, like I want to give this file to user 4. So I will use chown command, then username, and then file or directory name. Remember, any file or directory. You can give any file or directory name, whether it is file or directory. You just have to mention the name of that, and remember the path important. Whether it is in the same directory or any other directory, you will mention the path properly, and it will done. Now when you check, you can see it was owner. It was root was the owner. Now user 4 is the owner, and we change the user owner. We have not changed the group owner. Now if we want to change the group owner also, then first I will create one group. We don't have any group, so I will add one group add. I will add sales. Okay, now we are having a group also. So if you want to change the group ownership, then you will change it with the command chgrp. Then you will mention the group name, and then you will mention file or directory name. And now you can see, previously it was primary group of the root user. Now it is changed to sales. So for changing the group ownership, we can use command chgrp, and then we will mention the group name, and then we will mention file or any directory name. And this is to change group ownership. So this is to change the user ownership. To change the user ownership, we have chown, and to change a group ownership, we have a command chgrp. Now suppose I want to change both at the same time. I want to change the ownership, both ownership at the same time, user ownership and group ownership at the same time. Then I can use this command. Command will be chown. Now first I will mention the username here, then colon, I will mention the group name which I want to make owner. Then I will mention whatever file or directory name. So this will do what? To change user and group ownership. So this is to change the user and group ownership both at the same time. User and group ownership at the same time. So if you want to change both at the same time, for example, this file, I want to change group and user and group ownership at the same time. So I will mention the command chown, and remember the file belongs to user 1. I'm changing it to user 3, and the group I have only one. So first username, and then group name, and then file or directory name. And now you can see the ownership is changed. So this is what changing ownership. Now okay, so now this is what we can say, this is a little advanced permission. Now we'll see some advanced permissions. Till now what we have seen is how we can assign a permission. Till now we have seen how we can assign a permission. We can use numerical way, we can use symbolical way, we can use symbolic way, we can use numerical way, and we can use ownership also. We can change ownership also from file or directory. Now suppose I have a scenario where I want to assign permissions to different users. We are having four different users. We have four different users. That is, if you check, so we have four different users, or even we can say five different users. User 1, 2, 3, 4, and even 5 also. Now I have a file here in this directory. I have these files. Okay, I will set the file again. So these files belongs to root and root, this file. Okay, and the other file I will remove. And I will make the default permission to it, chmod 644 on the file. So now it is back to default. Now it is owned by root user, and root user only have write permission, and all the other users are having read permissions. Okay, and we are having five different users, and we are having this file here where other users are having only read permission. Now I want to assign permissions to all these four users on the same file, and the scenario is like, I want to give user 1 all the permission on the file, like read, write, execute. Then for user 2 I want to give read, write, not execute. Then I want to give user 3 only read permission, no other permissions. Then for user 4 I want to give no permissions, blank, null. Now on the same file we are having four different type of permissions. Like one user is having all the permissions, second user is having only write permissions, read write permission, third user is having only read execute permission, and the fourth user is not having any permission. Oh, this one is third user is only having read permission, and fourth user will have no permissions. Now how we can do this? So whatever we know till now, whatever the permission way we have learned, like we have learned that how to assign permission by numerical and symbolical way and all that, and how we can change the ownership also. So till now what we know, how I can achieve this. So what I will do here, that I can do what, I can make user 1 owner of the file, and I will give owner user read, write, execute. Now I can achieve that user 1 will get read, write permission, read, write, execute permission, and other users will not get the read, write, execute permissions. Remember, I don't want to give all the users same permissions. Then for user 2, user 1 is solved. Problem for user 1 is solved. I will make the owner, and owner will give, I will give owner read, write, execute permission. So user 1 is solved. Let's do this here. So I will make chown user 1 owner of the file. Now user 1 is owner, and I will give user 1 all the permissions on the file. Now I can see that owner user is this user 1, and owner is getting read, write permissions. Done for user 1. Now for user 2, I want to give user 2 read, write permission. Only read, write, no execute, and only for user 2, no for other users. If I give it to others, then it will get other users. That means all the users will get. So what I can do now, I can make user 2 member of this owner group, and then I will assign owner group write permission. So from there the user 2 will get read, write, and all the other users will not get read, write, and only user 2 will get read, write, read, write only, not execute also. So how I will do, we
Sir,
command, yes,
what is the 4 standing for? I understood the 7, but I don't understand the 4.
4 is read. See the numbers.
But are you working with a file or directory?
Is it that it does not matter? File or directory does not matter. Both will be the same. Commands, the way is same, whether it is file or directory. But I'm working on file.
Okay.
Okay. So what I want to give user to read, write permission. So what I'm doing here, I am adding the user into the group. Now remember, I'm not using any new command. I'm using all the commands which we have already done. A, to add the user 2 into the group. Now which group is there in this file? This group. I will add it here. Now user 2 is added into this group, and now user 2 will get which permission? This permission. Now this permission is only read, so I will change the permission chmod, and I will plus group user write permission on the file. Now 2 users problem is solved. 2 users problem is solved, and that is what user 1 is getting read, write, execute because it is the owner and nobody else is getting it. Then okay, I did not change. Okay, yes, right. And then what? User 2 is member of this root group. So now it is getting the permissions of this group, and this group is having what? Read, write only. So 2 users problem is solved. Now for third user, I want to give only read permission. So I don't have to change anything because from others it will get read permission. So user 3 will get the read permission. That is also fine. Now for user 4, I want to give no permission to user 4. Now where did I put this user 4? If I leave it on the other side, then it will get read. Now if I remove read permission from the others, then user 3 will also lose the read permission because both users are considered as a others. So if I remove the read permission, then user 3 will not get the read permission, and if I keep the read permission, then user 4 will also get the read permission. This is a problem here, but actually we are having other problems are also. The other problems are what? I added the user 2 into root users primary group. Remember, this group is root users primary group, and root users primary group means what? It is the administrator's primary group. That means every files which is created and owned by user root, it is also owned by this primary group. And if I make this user, this normal user, member of this administrator's primary group, that means I am giving right on all the files which is owned by this group. I am giving right to this user also. That is a big problem. I don't want to do that. I just want to give permission on this file. So that is not okay. And also this file was belong to user root, and I changed the permission. I changed the ownership to user 1. So that is also not the good thing. So these are the problems we have done to try to achieve what I want, but we failed, and still we did a big misconfigurations. We should not change the ownership for root users file. You should not do that. Maybe they are configuration files, system files. You should not do that. Then also don't make any normal user member of root users primary group. Otherwise they will get all the permissions of root, all the files of root. So we should not do that also. So what is the solution for this? The solution is advanced permission. Advanced. Now I will remove the user from there. User 2 from root users primary group. Then I will change the ownership also. Chown back to root for the file. And then I will change the permissions also, that user owner should get read write, group owner should get read, and others should get also read. Now everything is okay, and the file goes back to default. Now remember, I am talking about only this file, but we can say it's directory, or we can say it's many directories and files also. Now what? We can do this by using the advanced permission. What we want to do, we want to give one user all the permission, read write execute. Then we want to give second user only read write. Then third user we want to give only read. Fourth user I want to give only no permission. So this we can do by using the advanced permission. Advanced permission is like you do in Windows. We go to we go to Windows files property and go to the security tab, where we can see the list of permissions there. It is called access control list. In Windows also it is called what? Access control list, where we add users and we change the permissions for those users. Now same thing here we can do here on all the files and directories. Any file or directory, we can also create access control list. That means ACL of permissions, and that is what? Advanced permission. Now this advanced permissions we are going to see tomorrow.